In this episode, we will take a look at Heidegger's essay, Who is Nietzsche's Zarathustra? Heidegger starts with the subtitle of Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a book for everyone and no one. Heidegger claims, for everyone does not of course mean for just anybody. For everyone means for each man as man, insofar as his essential nature becomes at any given time an object worthy of his thought. He further claims that for no one means to tell us that Nietzsche's book is not meant for those who are interested in it superficially and who read it fragmentarily as a source of fragmentary aphorisms. He basically means this book is not for those who just quote fragments from it without understanding its true depth. In other words, if Heidegger were alive today, he would have attacked every single person who posts a random quote by Nietzsche on social media without having read his work in depth. The second thing Heidegger pays attention to is the title of the book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. But in what sense did Zarathustra speak? Was he an orator or perhaps a preacher? Neither. According to Heidegger, Zarathustra spoke as an advocate. He uses the German word Fürsprecher to describe Zarathustra. An advocate is ultimately the man who interprets and explains that of and for which he speaks. But what is it that Zarathustra advocates? Heidegger goes to part 3 of the book to answer this question. In part 3 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, there is a section called the Convalescent. Heidegger claims that the verb to convalesce is the same as the Greek word nostos, from which we get the word nostalgia. So basically, the convalescent is the man who collects himself to return home, that is, to turn into his own destiny. The convalescent is on the road to himself so that he can say of himself who he is. Heidegger points out how Zarathustra refers to himself in the book as an advocate, saying, I, Zarathustra, the advocate of life, the advocate of suffering, the advocate of the circle. The theme of returning home is indeed crucial in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Heidegger does not mention it, but there is another section in part 3 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, which is called the Homecoming. So, according to Heidegger, Zarathustra speaks on behalf of life, suffering, the circle, and this is what he advocates. These 3 things, life, suffering, circle, belong together, are the same. His explanation for the sameness of these 3 things is the following. Life for Nietzsche means will to power, and as Nietzsche tells us, all that suffers wills to live, and the circle is the symbol of achieving the recurring self-sameness. In the same section of the book, Zarathustra is referred to as the teacher of the eternal recurrence. The circle as a symbol is all over the book. For instance, we hear about Zarathustra's eagle and how it circles in the air above him. And there is also the snake, which is a symbol of eternal recurrence in popular culture when it is depicted as eating its own tail. Not to mention that Zarathustra's animals circle around him. Accordingly, Zarathustra presents himself as the advocate of the fact that all being is will to power, which suffers as creative colliding will and thus wills itself in the eternal recurrence of the same.